Don't blink. Blink and you're dead. They are fast, faster than you can imagine. Don't turn your back. Don't look away. And don't blink. Good luck. Hello, my fellow Whovians, and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review Doctor Who Blink, starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. So, Blink, this is the 10th episode of Doctor Who Series 3, and this is the Doctor Light episode of Series 3. Much like how Love and Monsters was Series 2's Doctor Light story, this is the one for Series 3. And by that I mean where the Doctor doesn't feature as much as another character. The focus is now switched onto a character called Sally Sparrow. And the plot is as follows. In an abandoned house, the Weeping Angels wait. The only hope to stop them is a young woman named Sally Sparrow and her friend Larry Nightingale. The only catch, the Weeping Angels can move in the blink of an eye to defeat the ruthless enemy. With only half of a conversation from the 10th Doctor as help, the one rule is this: don't turn your back, don't look away, and don't blink. Good luck. So, Blink. Blink, 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 blink. This is a story that is highly regarded among the fandom, and I can see why. It's certainly a very popular Doctor Who story, there's no denying that. And it is without question the best story to feature the Weeping Angels, by far. And this is written by Stephen Moffat, and I think this is one of the stories that proved to Russell T Davies that Moffat would be a good replacement as a showrunner. As for my opinion on this story, well, I haven't seen this story in quite a number of years, so I had kind of forgotten about it, to be perfectly honest. All I remembered was that it focused on a woman called Sally, and the Doctor was hardly in it. That was kind of my opinion. Well, that was what I remembered from it. However, rewatching this story, I can see why people love this story. Blink is a very good, very strong Doctor Who story. It's a very cleverly written story. What I love about Blink is that it is basically a classic horror story, and the concept is so good you can do quite a lot of things with it. But that being said, you don't actually need to do a lot with it to make it scary, and what makes this episode scary is the tension. It's just incredibly tense. And the concept of blinking, and the idea of, if you blink, then you're dead, and you're trapped into another time period. It's pretty freaky, and obviously it happened to the Doctor. I mean, the actual narrative of the story is quite thin. It's the Doctor and Martha are trapped in 1969, and the Doctor is trying to send all these messages back to Sally Sparrow to get her to help them escape, which is interesting, and the whole thing ties together very well. I won't go over all of the tie-ins and whatnot, but you have to watch it and see. It's a very cleverly plotted Doctor Who story, and all of the little tie-ins were very good, and some of them actually quite emotional. The first of which being Larry's sister, Sally's best friend Kathy, who ends up being stuck in 1920, and she ends up having a life there, and she marries this man and has children and grandchildren, and she sends these letters back to Sally, and it's actually quite heartbreaking to see that at the beginning. And then Sally meets this man called Billy, who's actually a policeman, and then he gets trapped in 1969 and meets the Doctor and Martha, and then the Doctor asks for his help to send messages to Sally. And of course, all of this doesn't really make sense towards Sally as well, because she receives these DVDs with David Tennant on them, telling her to, giving her the instructions of what to do, and the conversation that plays out. He knows what she's going to say, like 40 years later, and she's just very confused about that. She doesn't really know, and obviously the Doctor explains in the end that he is a time traveller and he needs the TARDIS, and the TARDIS is stuck in the modern day, and the Doctor and Martha have been zapped into 1969. So it's interesting that in this case the Doctor is powerless to do anything without someone's help. And the very end of the story obviously is very good, when Sally finally meets the Doctor and Martha, and then she gives him all of the information that she has been given, so it all kind of loops around. It's very clever. It's a very cleverly written story, and it would surprise me, actually. I'd not remembered it to be this good. As for David Tennant, well, he's not in it that much, but when he is in it, he's pretty good. And there's that whole thing about, this is the introduction of the phrase, the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, which has become quite a famous phrase. And Freema Agyeman as Martha, I mean, she's all right, but this is probably her weakest performance, given the fact that she just doesn't get a lot to do in this one. The Doctor and Martha, they're in it, they're basically prolonged cameos. They're not really in it that much, but when they are there, it's nice to see them, and it's nice to see that there's a good little rapport going on there. Like I said, I like the scene when they meet Billy, and the Doctor gives him the instructions to give Sally the message. And it's actually quite sad to see Billy reappear as an old man and see Sally again. And it's just a very emotional moment for Sally as well, because she's only just met the guy, but then realising that, hang on, this is all kind of confusing. He was going to take her out for a drink, and he was trying to woo her, and in the end, he passes. It's very sad, but he gives her the message to look at the lists and look at the DVD. So this is probably one of Stephen Moffat's most clever scripts. One time, I'll give it to him. You know, he wrote a very good script. And the Weeping Angels, my goodness, they are very scary. They really are. You turn away for a sec, and then they're much closer to you like that. And the fact that they don't have voices or anything, there's no sound, very little sound. And the fact that most of this is set in a haunted house is also really interesting. It gives the story a real horror feel. And I really just think the tension is kept throughout this episode. There is constant tension throughout this story, and it is genuinely freaky. It's one of the Doctor Who episodes where it is literally a 45-minute horror movie. It is freaky as hell, and I love it for that. It's very well directed as well by Hetty MacDonald. As much as Moffat gets credit for the script, I think she deserves credit for the direction, because it's very good. As for the character of Sally, played by Carey Mulligan, actually, who's a very famous actress now, Carey Mulligan does a good job as Sally Sparrow. We don't know much about her sort of situation as such. She's just kind of investigating the house, and all we know is that she's friends with Kathy, and then she becomes friends with Larry, and then ends up working in the DVD shop with Larry. So I don't think the two of them are a couple as such. It's never really stated in the end whether they are or not, but I think they are, because she does take his hand at the end, but whatever. And then Finley Robertson plays Larry. Larry's okay. He's a decent character, I suppose. We're introduced to him with his shirt off. Yeah, kind of interesting way to me, but that's Stephen Moffat's perverted mind right there. I just think Blink is a very good story on basis of tension and of plot. When the Doctor and Martha are in it, it is very good, but it is nice to have focus on somebody else for a change, and just the eeriness and the creepiness of this story really works, and the angels are just freaky as hell, and the house setting is very well done. The sort of production design is also very good. I also like the emotionality of the story as well, and it really it tugs at your heartstrings as well, so it goes the extra mile to kind of stand out. I do have to take a point off though, because as much as I like the idea and I'm okay with seeing another perspective, I do wish the Doctor and Martha could have been in it a bit more, so I have to downgrade a point for that. But otherwise, Blink is a terrific Doctor Who story, so I'm going to give Blink a 9 out of 10. And also, Murray Gold's music is excellent as well. And the climax of the story is very enthralling when Larry and Sally are in the house trying to escape the angels, and he's trying not to blink, and they're trying to get to the TARDIS as well. And then the angels are rattling the TARDIS around, which is interesting. And then the hologram of David Tennant appears, and then the TARDIS leaves without them. But then the Doctors trick them, and the angels are staring at each other, and then they won't be able to move. So it's a very clever story, very, very clever. And that, my friends, brings us on to the final story of Series 3. Utopia, Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords. The 3-part finale, which just so happens to be a very special one for me, because it is my favourite Doctor Who story of all time. So expect nothing but love to come from that review. And maybe not everyone would choose that story as their favourite, but to me, it's very special. And I'll explain why in the next video. But thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for my review of the Series 3 finale. Until next time, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye for now.